Okay, Dan here, back, Novillo creator, and I'm going to take a look at some of the changes to the start screen of Novillo that I've been working on the last couple of days. This is the new start screen for Novillo, and one of the things that it does right away, you can see, is if you've seen the screen before, you'll recognize most of the things that are here, but it now puts the picker for the projects you have already got in your app up there right away, so you can select them right away. And basically what it does is it puts the most recent project first. So it's easy to just get the one you want and go in there and start editing. That's the key to what we're doing here. This is one of those things that just using the app enough, you begin to realize, because you're using it now to build stuff, you're using it like a user, not like a programmer, you start to realize what you have probably got the wrong idea about. So I've been trying to address those issues. One of the things that got this whole rewrite started of the screen is that I wanted to be able to delete projects. I've got a lot of them. Once they're built up enough, I would have to go into the database and like delete, and it was actually quite hard to do. And I just thought, this is nonsense. So I'm going to be writing a delete function that would go in there. And all I needed was one button, just to add one button. But you know what? It turns out that that one button didn't really fit anywhere. And when I started looking at the start screen, I realized, you know what, I wrote enough of this, got it working well enough to do what I wanted to do in the editing area, but this is now a thing in itself that I need to focus on, so I decided to put in a few days of revamping this. Okay, since I already start by choosing a project, we now have this thing up there. Basically, if you don't have any projects, because you've just loaded the app for the first time, never built a project, or everything's been deleted, you would see more like this when you start, because there's nothing to show in the picker. And so there you have a new button in there. But I'm going to show you first the choose button, which was already there before. If you tap the choose button, then you toggle the selector. So it's just an on-off thing, pretty straightforward. And if you select something in the picker there of projects, it will give you the same alert confirmation that was there before. I also, though, now have a little lozenge that appears up at the top, which tells you the name of the project, the name of the GitHub repository, and the name of the GitHub account up at the top there. So you can have a clear reference to what you're doing. And that little red button on the right-hand side, that's the delete button that all this was for in the very beginning. Okay, if I cancel loading the project, then I'm returned to the screen and the selector disappears. And now I have the buttons that would allow me to do things like create a new project, upload a project that I already have, which isn't something you can do if you haven't selected one, but and then also download a project. So those are all things that were there before, but I've reorganized them into a somewhat neater configuration here. With the selector hidden, I can tap the new button, and this gives me a different reorganization of basically the same form that was there before that I was using to create new projects. So that functionality has been restored there. And so I give here, the repository, the GitHub account, the name of the project, and if you don't want this to be a publicly available thing, then there's a secret token and you can provide that, but we're not doing that in the testing phase right now. Okay, and that is kind of everything that was done to the home page. Pretty simple stuff. There was another thing, though, that was wrong with the previous screen when it was first loaded, and that was that the different areas of the screen, the logo, the title, the main image, none of these are in there, but they are represented in terms of areas. They just weren't rendering right. So I went back to really kind of go through from the very beginning and rewrite all the interface constraints that cause things to appear correctly. And this also works fine in horizontal now. So just explain, there's the stuff at the top we've looked at, and then there's this big white area below. That's going to be an image that you can provide, or images that you can provide to give the user, the potential reader, potential supporter of your project, a sense of what the look and feel of it is. Down below that, there's that gray bar, and then an area below that. That's the text description of it, where you can just provide long form text to describe what it is your story is all about. And the little pen on the right hand side at the bottom is really where the details of the project will go. So the price, the author, the state of completion, the date of publication, the date it was started, how many pages it is, all that stuff, the hard information would go in there. And that also gives you a chance to either purchase the project, so you purchase it and then you can just download updated versions at any time, or you could support the project, which will be a way of connecting it up to a Patreon-like system for allowing people to pledge money to your project on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or a per installment basis or whatever you want. And then there's also a preview, which is a way of giving people a few pages or a few compositions of your project to give them a chance to sort of see what you're up to. So those are all the things that were there before, but they're now getting a little bit more seriously thought about, and I think the layout is more amenable to what I'm trying to do. So also some ideas that I'm not going to talk about right now about how we're going to make this even better. Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. Dan, Novillo creator, lonely man in a room with blank walls also. But one day they'll let me out. When they do, I'm going to have a sandwich. But no sandwich today.